So I showed up to a wedding and I had my production cart break on me. I was super hyped up about it. I told everybody, go out and buy this cart, and it broke on me the second time I took it out in the field. So as a result, I decided to reach out to every company that is popular right now for production carts, and we're gonna put on the best cart review video you have ever seen. I am not biased. I am not paid to say anything nice about any of these carts. In fact, the manufacturers don't even know what I'm gonna say about it until they watch this video. But I wanted to give you my open and honest opinion about each one of these production carts right now so that you can make a better informed decision. Learn from my mistakes, y'all. You don't wanna show up on set and your handle break and your wheel fall off. That's not where you wanna be. Let's get into it because we're not carting around. All right, so I do want to let you guys know, as a quick disclaimer, I was sent a lot of these carts with the exception of the YeagerPro. I actually purchased that one with my own money, but they did give me a discount on it. I'm only saying this because I want you guys to know why I'm doing this review, where these carts came from. However, I'm not forced to say anything nice about any of them. So no matter which cart I talk about first, I am not paid or told to say, hey, you got to say nice things about us. I'm going to give you the facts, whether or not I think it's built well and whether or not you should spend your money on it. So we have the Inovativ Apollo 40. I've got my Selens production cart. Now, a quick disclaimer about this one. This did break, but they did come out with a version 2 that I'll get my hands on later. And once I get that, I'll actually do a full separate review video on that cart. We have the unofficial Smallrig production cart. We've got the Adicam standard. We've got the YeagerPro 52-inch, and then we're finishing off with the Proaim Victor Lite. Now, like I said, unbiased review, so I'm gonna talk about each one of these carts. We're gonna be looking at build quality. We're gonna do a quick little simple lip test, and what I mean by that, the Selens cart broke on us when we were trying to push it into a wedding venue. We went over about 1.5 inch lip. So to simulate this, we actually took a sheet of plywood, attached a nice 2x3 to it, and we're gonna load these carts up to the max with about 350 pounds worth of gear and push it over this lip so I can show you what happens when the wheels actually come to a stop. Does it fold? Do they buckle? Is it easy to go over? I want to be able to give you guys all the facts. So let's get into it. All right, so the first one we got, this is the Proaim Victor Lite. Now, got a little bit of notes. This one retails for $1,774 as of making this video. And just looking at it right out of the gate, I'm gonna be honest, I don't like how thin the metal is. This is something that I haven't seen on a lot of carts. You look at some of these other ones when we get into it, the top frame, the bottom frame, this metal is very thin, but the corners are reinforced, so you have a nice little reinforcing on the ends. I will say, the Selens cart has a very similar design in terms of how thin the metal was. And so when we did that and we used that cart out in the field and the wheel broke, I got like a little bit of like PTSD when I got this one in the mail. So that's my only gripe right out of the gate. But you have a carpeted top layer and a carpeted bottom layer. Assembling this cart was super simple and it was basically toolless. All you have to do is unfold the 2 latches here. These lock into place on both ends, and then the top shelf snaps into it and you screw these things down here to lock it into place. So it's a very simple design. It is somewhat travel friendly, but I will say this one's a little bit on the larger side. So the Victor Lite measures at about 42.5 inches from the ground up, and it is 27.5 by 42 inches. So to me, I think this is like the ideal size that you would want a production cart. When I look at like the Smallrig and things like that, it is a little bit smaller, but this one's big enough so you can store enough gear on it and use it out in the field. The handles come included with it, so you actually have these handles that lock into the front. Another thing that I don't like about this is because we used the Selens cart, it had a very similar design. When we tightened it down and we ended up putting too much weight on it and then lifting up, these handles completely snapped off. So I prefer the handle that's here, that's screwed into the actual top frame. I think this is gonna be where you wanna lift and where you wanna put a lot of pressure on. These handles, I think, are just here to guide and steer the actual cart. The top shelf on the Victor Lite does not fold down. So if you want to be able to use this like out in the field with a laptop, you're gonna have to do the reach around like most carts like this. You're not gonna get a top level that actually folds flat. This is me being a little nitpicky, but I really don't like that the cart is not symmetrical. To me, I wish the legs were just all in the same corner. I also don't like that I lose real estate on my top shelf. So the top shelf clamps into the post it basically slides into it. And I don't like that. Because of that, I lose basically, this is a good 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches from the corner. So if I had like a Pelican case or something like that, it's only gonna go up to here. And so on both ends, I'm losing about 4 inches of top shelf storage. I don't like that. And I don't like that the cart actually doesn't have symmetrical legs. Looking at the underside of this cart, if you actually look here, when you tighten down the wheels, the actual clamp starts to break out a little bit. So on all 4 tires, this clamp, when you tighten it down, it's already poking out. And to me, I also don't like that the handle sticks out from the cart. No matter which direction I turn it, it's still sticking out from the cart. So if I was to back this into something or something accidentally fell on it, this could potentially break, and now you can't take your wheels off or even further tighten it. But on top of that, this piece here that's sticking out on all 4 corners, to me, because I had a tire break, I don't like that at all. Like, that gives me PTSD badly. These wheels don't even have a locking pin. So when you take this off, it just slides off. There's no locking pin. There's nothing that actually attaches this to the frame. So like I said, if this bolt comes loose, your tire is falling off because all it is slid into place. And then we're relying on this tiny little screw, which looks like a 1/4-20, to tighten down on this NATO rail that also sticks out to hold the tire in place. And once this thing is loaded with weight, you're using it, you're traveling with it in your production cart, maybe doing stuff like that, you're gonna get that rattle, that vibration. So this thing's gonna come loose. You probably won't know it. And when you find out that it's loose, it's probably gonna be too late. Those are the negatives that I have to say about the cart. Other than that, you do get a cross attachment here at the front, so you can mount additional accessories. All right, this one is the YeagerPro. This is by Maken Carts. And I actually didn't hear about this company until Cinegear this year, which was very ironic because I went to Cinegear literally one day before my other cart broke on me. As soon as it broke, I saw it all in the comments. You gotta use a Yaeger, gotta use a Yaeger. And I understand, just looking at this cart and using it, this thing is built like a tank. If you look, it's got reinforced welding on the sides, not bolts, welded frame on the top and bottom. It's thick metal. And if you actually look how thick this top frame is and compare that to what we just saw in the Victor Lite, it's a lot thicker. Like, this is what I mean by how thin this metal is. And this might not be a deal breaker, but if you're putting a lot of your gear, your precious babies on here, you need something that's not gonna cave in, that's not gonna break. This is solid metal. The top storage shelf mounts into the side, so you get some additional mounting points here. But I also love how the handle attaches. It actually screws through the thick top plate, and then it has a drop-in pin here at the top. So when you pull up on this, it's actually going through the frame. Again, much better design than the twist handles. Those things, you over tighten it or you put too much weight on it, you're trying to adjust using those, can completely snap off. And I had that happen to me literally when the other cart broke. They get a plus for me in that category in terms of the handle, the build design. This one is actually 52 inches by 26.25. So it's a little bit thinner, but it's a lot longer. And now this cart is designed if you're trying to get all the groceries literally in one trip. If you're a production company and you're trying to load this thing up with a bunch of gear, bunch of Pelican cases, stuff like that, this thing is massive and designed specifically for that. You get separate attachments like these mounting hooks that go into the side down here, and these literally just slide in and then tighten down with this twisting lock here. Assembling this cart, I'm not gonna lie, it was annoying, okay? The wheels are heavy, they're massive, but the cart is a tank. You're buying literally the Cadillac, the Ford Expedition of carts because of how massive and robust this thing is. So the YeagerPro actually retails for $1,959, and that is for the 52-inch version. So again, for context, $1,774 for a 40-inch version versus $1,959 for a 52-inch tank. Everything about the Yaeger cart to me really excites me because these wheels are not going anywhere. They are bolted to the frame. And then this one here actually goes entirely through. So if you come on this other side, there's a rod here. So it goes all the way through the frame and all the way through the top plate that's connected to the actual risers for the cart. So these tires literally bolt on wheels, none of that sliding stuff. I think this is a fantastic design, especially because you're putting heavy camera gear on it. So the tires are not gonna break. It's bolted to a metal frame. And if you also look at how reinforced it's welded corners on all corners. and then this metal wraps around to hold the entire frame in place. So this thing is literally, like I said, this is probably the most solid built cart I've seen, and at the price, it's unbeatable. The only other thing to point out about the YeagerPro is that there's not a lot of attachment. You basically get a side hook for like some simple accessories like a bag or something like that. You get a top shelf, and that's pretty much it. You don't get side mounting options. You're not gonna get monitor mount, stuff like that. There's not a lot of accessories, but like I said, this is the perfect cart if you're just trying to get all the groceries in the building at once. Oh, this is another thing to point out. This cart handles extremely well. Now, I don't think a lot of people talk about that, but after I used the other carts, I actually noticed how smooth it is to push this thing around. Like the wheels, the way the wheels spin and the cart doesn't dip down. So as I pull, the cart just spins and it's so smooth. I'm actually gonna bring back the Proaim Victor Lite just to show you how this one handles. And the only thing that I can say that I don't like is that it dips. It does that little dip thing. So when you go to push it, you can feel it kind of like resist with you, like that. You see that? Watch the wheels, watch how the front end of the entire cart dips down. And we do that same test with the YeagerPro. All right, so the next cart we're gonna pull out is actually by Adicam, and I haven't heard a lot about this company, and so when people were commenting, hey, you gotta check out Adicam, I was curious, and so I reached out, and they were very generous to loan us this cart to actually test for specifically this review. And when we were unboxing it, let me just be honest, out of all the carts, this was the sexiest unboxing. And if you're gonna buy a cart that's $1,880, like, it just felt premium when you opened it. And I'm not trying to, like I said, I'm not being biased, but that was a nice touch. It shipped in a nice storage or carrying bag. So if you're one of those people who like to fly with their carts, this comes with the bag. So you can literally show up to the airport, check the bag. And my favorite part is this is an entirely toolless assembly. So you don't need a single tool to put this cart together, and it's built really well. Let's start with the wheels. So this has a very similar design. It's kind of like the Proaim, but instead of like a twisting lock mechanism, it actually has a locking pin. So on the inside, you pull this pin here, and then that will release the tire to slide out. And just like that, you're done. You can literally assemble and disassemble this cart in minutes because of how fast and easy it is. Now, we'll say that this is also an 8-inch tire where the other ones have 10-inch tires. We're gonna do that lip test, and you'll probably be able to see like how it handles because of the tire difference. And a lot of this comes down to the size of the tire, how thick it is, how big it is, and how, pause. The pin, the locking pin, I would love to see this a lot bigger in the future. I don't think it's a problem for most people, but once you load this thing up, again, I had a cart break on me, so I am very conscious now about how the wheels attach to these frames. This is probably every brand's worst part of the entire cart, is how this part connects. To me, I love how quick it is, but I would have loved to see this locking pin be a lot thicker. The legs aren't symmetrical. Like, why? We need symmetry. I hate that it's not symmetrical, but it is what it is. You know, they fold down with a very similar design. So to assemble it, you literally screw these in and tighten it into the frame. They fold up, everything folds into itself. The wheels go inside, it locks into itself, and you can ship this thing or move with it, travel with it super easy. In order to fold it down, you literally unscrew this side, and then you fold this down. I love how smooth this cart is. Like, it just feels very high end. Like, it just has, like, it doesn't, like this here isn't, some of the other carts we'll show you, this doesn't just slam down and make noise. It's kind of like weighted in a way, like a soft touch. I love the carpeted liner. It goes end to end. It's hidden. You don't see bolts and things like that. With the YeagerPro, you actually can see the bolts. You can see how it's screwed into place. But this one, everything's seamless. Everything's hidden. And it just looks good. It, honestly, like, to me, out of all the carts, I think this has the best look, with the exception of the legs not being symmetrical. It has the best look. If you're into that, if you care about, oh, I want my cart to look good, this might be one you want to look at. For the size, this cart measures 24 inches by 40 inches tall and 36.5 inches long. So it's not the biggest cart, but If you think of size with a lot of these carts, one of the things that I ran into when I got my first production cart was getting it through doors. We get super hyped up. Oh, I want the biggest, baddest cart that there is. Give me the Hummer of production carts. And then you show up and can't fit this through any normal environment, any normal commercial door. And it sucks because then you gotta take all your stuff off and carry it in, which defeats the purpose of having a production cart. So to me, I actually like the 2-foot width. I think this one's 2 foot, and then the YeagerPro measures slightly wider at 26.5. I think that's an ideal width for most production carts. The handle test, again, I think this one handles super smooth. It still kind of has a little bit of pull. When you go to pull it down, it still has like this slight kind of jerk. I do also want to mention how thick the actual metal frame on this one is as well. You can see the actual welded reinforcements. It's got this rubber liner across the entire top, which is super nice because you're not just dealing with like metal to metal contact. So if you do put like your camera gear and stuff like this, the metal frame doesn't scratch your gear. The bottom, if you look at how thick this bottom frame is, look at how thick this plate is. This to me is a really good sign of a good production cart. If you buy a cart and it's super thin, and I'm so sorry to do this, but I'm gonna pick on the Victor Lite, but if you go back to this and look, I'm actually gonna pull it over so you can see both together. So you can literally see how much thinner the Victor Lite is compared to the Adicam. All right, so the next cart we have is actually a prototype, which is super cool. Smallrig is in the process of bringing out their first cart to the market, and we got a first look at it. And I'm gonna be honest, in terms of quality, I've always had bad luck with Smallrig products, just in general. Things are always loose, things always fall off, screws come up missing, like just the weirdest things with a lot of their products. But this, at first glance, is built really well. The one thing that I think this cart has over all the other ones is the amount of 1/4-20, 3/8, and RE locking options you have wrapped around the entire cart. Both the top and bottom have these mounting options. Now, I don't know what you would use it for, I'm just being honest, but the fact that you have the option is huge. When you get a production cart, it starts off just like everything else. You're just gonna load it up with stuff, and as your process evolves, you start using the cart way more to its advantage. And that, to me, I absolutely love, because we use a lot of the iFootage quick release clamps, and you can attach those to the sides of these carts and just have extra attachments when you need it. Quick release arms, friction arms, just grab and go. The other cool thing about the Smallrig cart is that the top shelf actually folds down on both. Now, like I mentioned about the Adicam, when you let these go, it just kind of slams shut. But the Adicam, like I said, it holds itself in place. Both sides of this cart you get access to, and it's just 2 little simple pins, and all you gotta do to shut it is push it closed. You don't actually have to manually lock it. So to me, in terms of efficiency, that's a little bit quicker. Now, we look at the handle. When I first got it, I was excited about it, but I can see this handle being something that's not a good idea. It's basically a NATO attachment that locks into place, and it's friction-based. So you lock it in like this. I can just see you pushing this cart with your weight and your gear on it, and then you're trying to lift up over something or push down to get over something. And as soon as you lift up, this thing slides out. Right? Slides out, breaks on you. I can see this getting loose over time. It hasn't since I've had it. I've had it for about 2 months now. We've been doing tests and stuff with it. It hasn't come loose. But again, I think once you're using it and you're actively using it out in the field, this is your daily driver, you forget about little things like screws. You don't expect things like that to come loose, especially on your cart. So to me, I don't like the design. I much prefer the design. And I'm gonna say this every time. If the handles bolt through the frame, that is a good sign of a good production cart. The Proaim, the Yaeger, and the Adicam all have handles that bolt through the frame. You don't have to worry about anything twisting to it or anything that's gonna lock into place. It's bolted through the frame. So unless your frame breaks, your handle's staying in place. Now, in terms of size, this cart is actually the smallest of all of them. It measures at 21.25 by 35.25. And I believe it's only 40 inches tall. So it is a smaller cart, But I think, honestly, for most people, for most running gun filmmakers, this is probably the size of a cart you're gonna need. You're not gonna need something as massive as a Jaeger or as wide as the Proaim. You're gonna want something that's small, compact. This is great if you don't have a production van. This will pack down nicely and go straight into your car. It's also a toolless design, so you don't need tools to assemble it. Everything has these quick clamps that rotate so you can attach, get more friction. They lock into place. So you don't need any tools to assemble this. Makes it super simple. The top carpet is not entirely carpeted. It's just like a pad that folds over. I don't know, again, this is a prototype, so I don't know if the final product is gonna actually have a better, maybe carpeted layer, whether for the top or bottom. But as of right now, that's what we got. I don't have a for sure price on this cart, but I was told that it should be somewhere between $1,000 and $2,500. So take that for what you want. I think at that price point, if it's closer to the $1,000 area, this is gonna be a really hard cart to pass. If it's on that upper area, it's gonna be competing with a lot of better options out on the market. Also, as of right now, I'm not sure if this cart is gonna have any additional accessories like mounting options or arms or anything like that. You might have to look third party, but as of right now, this is all I know on the prototype for the Smallrig production cart. Now I wanna show you how the wheels attach to this cart. So these are similar, this is a little bit better of a design. This frame is super thick, so you can actually see the size of how thick this top plate is. It's about a good 1/4 inch. But the frame is basically a large NATO rail that's bolted to the actual frame, and then the tires are these attachments that slide into place. They are locked in by a locking pin, so you don't have to worry about if it gets loose, it's not gonna fall off. To remove it, you gotta push that in and then slide the tire out. Now this, to me, it's super loose to begin with. Again, this is a prototype, so I can't really bash this cart because I don't know what it's gonna look like when it actually hits the market. I believe these are also 8-inch tires. Again, we're gonna do a lip test. I think, to me, if I was going out buying a cart, I want bigger 10-inch tires, but that's just my personal preference. All right, this is our last test, is the handles. It's pretty solid, and it doesn't dip down too bad without weight on it. I don't like when you change positions how much it pulls you, but that could be because the tires are small. Not too sure. That's gonna wrap us up on the smaller cart. All right, this is the Inovativ Apollo 40. And I'm gonna be honest, after using all the carts, this is the best push and pull cart you can get. Like the drivetrain on this thing, right? The handles on this thing, it's screaming Bugatti. It's screaming Aston Martin. Like seriously, it just handles really well. I'm not trying to gas it up. I will start with some of the things that I don't like about the cart. And the first thing is gonna be the handles on the front. I don't like the handles. Again, this is one of those clamp-on handles where it screws into it, and then you have just this little bitty bolt that's responsible for holding the weight when you're trying to reposition and adjust. And to me, like I said, after using it on set, that's what broke on the Selens cart. This is the exact same design. And so it's a matter of time before I can see or should expect something like that to happen with this one. I feel like all handles for all production carts should not be clamped onto the legs, but should be bolted to the frame. I will say that this is also a very stylish looking cart. The Apollo 40 is super clean. In the world of modularity, if you're trying to fully customize your cart and have options for working on the go, like a DIT cart or something like that, this honestly is probably the way to go. This is the best option. They have every accessory you can think of. We've got side mounting hooks. We've got a 24-inch storage trough, and they also make a smaller version of this one. You've got a really nice monitor mount that rotates, tilts, and swivels, so you can get any position. Right now, I've got a nice LG Ultra Wide attached to it. You also get these seats. I love these things, actually. You actually can mount your seat stands to the front of the cart. So you can literally lock them into place. Seat stands are light stands. It clamps in, tightens down. I think that's an amazing add-on. This cart also, you get a carpeted top layer, middle layer, and bottom layer. This one very similar design as, I believe, the Smallrig cart. It's very similar design. So you actually get this nice, thick wedge cheese plate, and it has one locking option that slides in. But the cool thing about this is the mounts or the locks are on the inside, so it's not protruding from the outside. However, there is no locking pin, so you only get this little bit of kind of compression. Like I said, it's more like one of those NATO rails. Slides in, the compression tightens it down. There's no locking pin or anything like that. I strongly think all tires on production carts should be bolt-on. in my opinion, the Jaeger wins in this category because those tires are not falling off. You got 4 bolts, one that goes all the way through the frame. You don't have to worry about that cart, losing strength or anything like that. This, to me, just having a clamp is just almost asking for, I just think it's asking for a disaster because it's a clamp. You're gonna forget about it. It might loosen over time, and before you know it, your tire is sliding off. There is nothing that prevents it from sliding off. So if this thing gets entirely loose, all that's gonna happen is your tire is gonna slide off. So I wish this at least had a locking pin or something of the sort. When your cart breaks on you, it ain't a good feeling. Now let's do a quick wheel test. Now to me, this is the smoothest cart. Like this one, this is definitely the Aston Martin of production carts. And I'm only saying that because this thing handles so nice. The wheels are thick, they're in the right placement. And one thing we noticed about wheels is that, and we're gonna compare this, I might put all of them on the line so you can see, but the wheels stick out quite a bit. And the benefit to this is when you reposition the cart, the wheel, look at how much, it's just like about 2.5 inches of overhang from the wheel, which means the weight is gonna stay on top of the tire. You don't have weight in front of the tire. So when you reposition, this isn't gonna dip down. And the only carts that I see with a really good kind of overhang like this is the Inovativ and the YeagerPro. We'll put them all up in the lineup so you can see exactly how that looks. So this is the Selens cart. Again, I just want to show you a quick example of why we're even making this video. Our tire broke when we were on set. And if you look here, if I pull this, you can see how much wiggle and bend we have with the wheel. So when it hit that 1-inch lip, it literally buckled and the whole tire snapped off the frame. And so because of this, I wanted to test all the other carts and see how durable the wheel attachment is. So we look at the Inovativ, this is the Apollo. It has a very similar design to the Selens, where it is actually bolted to the frame with that dovetail kind of attachment. But now let's do a quick little tire test to see if we get any play in the frame and how it's bolted to the frame. There's not a lot of play, but there's definitely a little bit of play with the Inovativ. Not nearly as much as what we've seen. Let's go into the Smallrig cart. So if we pull this one, ooh, that's on there. Nah, this one's not going anywhere. Now we're gonna move on to the Adicam. This is the Adicam cart. We're gonna do the same thing, kind of pull on this to see if there's any play with the frame. Now that one's in there. Now, this is the big boy, the Jaeger. I'm just gonna skip it. It's 4 bolts attaching to this thing, going through the metal frame, reinforced with a metal, basically washer. No, it's not working. It's not, it's pointless. This is the most solid design in a tire system out of all the carts, hands down. All right, this is the Proaim. Again, it fans out as soon as you do it. I don't like that. Now we're gonna do a quick tire test to see if this actually bends. So it's not bending, but the whole tire is moving. Let's see if this one does it. So they all move like that. That's wild. Let's see if this one moves. Yep. This one's already slid out. What? All right, so we just found something. This tire is already slid, it's falling out, and it's tightened down. That's crazy. That's wild. That's crazy. There's your tire. This is what I mean, guys. This right here, nah, this one's off the list. I would not recommend it because of that. I'm gonna try to, it's tightened down. What? Look, I'm about to tighten it so you don't think I'm joking. I'm tightening it. It's tightened, bro. You are kidding. Proaim Victor Lite. Here's where I think the mistake is with the Proaim. The tires slide in instead of slide in this direction. So the bottom tire should slide in this direction. That way, when you're gonna be pushing the car forward and backwards, it shouldn't slide in the same direction that the cart's gonna be maneuvered. So that's the reason why that can easily slide out. If it was mounted if these back tires slid in this direction, you couldn't kick it off. So that would make a lot more sense, but this is the design, this is how it ships to you. Going back to the Adicam cart, looking at this one, it does exactly what I just said. The actual tire itself slides in from the side, which means there's no way for it to actually pop off. You'd have to kick it out to try to get it off, which is unrealistic when you're using the cart because the motion is forward and backwards. So because it slides in from the side, we don't even need to do a kick test because we would have to literally stomp it out, which, like I said, is unrealistic. So now I got all the carts lined up. I actually want to show you the wheel placement and how the actual wheels protrude out from the frame. So we start, this is the Inovativ cart. The Inovativ actually comes out, and like I said, this is a great thing because the tire, when you go to rotate positions, the tire doesn't sink too far under the frame, which is gonna help when this is loaded with weight and you're trying to reposition stuff like that. You don't have to worry about your weight dipping down too much on this spinning tire. Now, this is the Smallrig cart. If you look, when I rotate the tire in, look at how much overhang we have from the wheel. This is another thing that I don't like, and comes from the Selens cart. When we use the Selens, it would dip down so much when this thing was loaded with weight. And that was mostly due because of the wheel placement. So this one, again, if you look at the Inovativ, the positioning there with the little bit of overhang versus the positioning here and how much overhang we have from the tire. This is the Adicam cart. Again, we rotate it. It's got a little bit of overhang, not quite as much as the Smallrig. So I think the wheel placement on this is pretty good. But if you look at the Jaeger, this is the best design in tires. Like I said, they thought this through, both in how it attaches and the placement. The weight distribution, it is literally bolted to the edge of the frame. So this plate is actually hitting the edge. So when we pull this out and we reposition the tire here, the tire literally is flush with the edge of the wheel. You have about, before the tire, you have about an inch of gap, which I think that's huge when when you load this thing up with weight and you go to maneuver it and you repositioning, you're not gonna have a lot of that weight sink in because the tire is rotating. So this overhang, that gap in weight, you're not gonna have to worry about that. And lastly, we have the Proaim. We reassembled it. And so if we pull this one out, again, this has the worst possible overhang. This honestly reminds me more of the Selens cart because of that overhang. In fact, I'll grab the Selens cart and show you what I mean. So here's the Selens cart and the overhang. And then if we rotate this a little bit, you can see what I mean. How the tires are so far under the cart that the weight can now dip down. And I think the reason for that is because these tires should be further out from the edge. And so to me, the Proaim, again, we're coming at the tires, but the assembly as well as the placement is not ideal. These tires should be closer to the edge of the frame so that you don't get enough buckle where it actually wants to sink in when you reposition, the tire rotates. All right, so now we got the carts loaded. So the test that we're getting ready to do, we created basically 1.5 inch lip. This is about the same amount of gap that we had to get over when we were using the Selens cart. So we ended up pushing it over and the wheel basically bent and then broke off the frame. We're trying to emulate that same type of test. So we loaded the cart with 350 pounds. We're going to actually push over it, but we're also going to do a few extra tests. When the Selens cart broke and I was wheeling it back to the van, the handle snapped off. And so that got me thinking, well, dang, are these twist handles any good? So I'm gonna test all the handles by adding a lot of stress to these handles before we do the test, as well as I'm going to be trying to pull and push the cart so you can see how it maneuvers when the wheels actually relocate. So first, let's just do this. We're gonna do a simple like push and pull. So now this is the Inovativ. Like I said, the handle's really smooth. And honestly, like to me, like this thing is really smooth. Like it feels good, but right there we get a little dip when we try to turn and go the opposite direction. We'll try to see if I can get that again. So I'm gonna pull and turn at the same time. Yeah, not too bad that side. So that was a little bit of a dip, but now what I wanna do is a handle test. So like I said, I was wheeling it back to the cart and I was basically pressing down on these handles. So that's good. I can literally feel the handles bending. And I feel like with enough force, these might end up snapping. Now, let's do this tire test. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna line this up. All right, that was nice. That was nice. It actually really went over. Pretty simple. So the Inovativ cart gets a +1. That's our tire test. I can tell you right now, these keep twisting on me. Like as I'm moving, like it literally just keeps twisting. So you have to keep retightening it. All right, after reviewing the footages, the Inovativ did really well. In fact, it was actually easier pulling it back over the lip. But if you look closely, you'll see that it didn't bend. The tires actually didn't fold. It actually rolled right over. Like these all-terrain tires, these are like BF Goodrich. They went right over the lip with no resistance. It was super simple. And then when we pulled it back, I noticed it was 10 times easier, especially with a heavy load. So if I was using this cart and you had to get over an edge, instead of pushing it, I would actually turn the cart around and just pull it over. But in doing that means you gotta put a little bit more pressure on these handles. And I'm telling you guys, look at how much it bends when I lift it. So right here, like that's a lot for this handle. All that weight is now suspended. 350 pounds is now suspended on these handles. That is probably not gonna be the best thing for you to do, but doing this lip test, it still feels better to pull it over the lip than to push it. All right, so now we got the Smallrig cart. Again, we've got the same 350 pounds mounted on this. It's ugly, but it needed to be the same weight so all the carts have the same playing field. So we're gonna move this one out. Oh, that tire, that does not like the weight. No, oh my God. I almost don't wanna push it over. These wheels are so tiny that I feel like if these were 10 inches, it probably would help it. But with it being so small, you're not gonna wanna go over any gaps that's 1.5 inches or bigger. All right, so now we got the Adicam cart. We got the exact same 350 pounds weighted. I also wanna let you know that we're mounting them the exact same. So we're using the aperture battery, keeping that in the front. This is exactly 100 pounds. That's exactly how we had it placed on the Selens cart. So we're doing this strategically because we're trying to basically recreate the same incident that happened with that cart. So now let's do a little movement test with it loaded. It does not like it either. Like the small wheels, it's fighting to handle it. Look at that. Look at how it leans. Watch this, ready? So same thing, I think with this cart, you definitely want to go backwards. And with these handles being like you actually can feel how sturdy and tight this is because it's like literally locked in. But I would still say with the small tires, you don't want to push over the lip, you want to pull. All right, so now we got the YeagerPro. Again, we got both on wheels. So let's see how this one, oh my goodness, wow. Like just right out of the gate, it handles so good. Out of all of them, this is definitely the best one. Wheels are just like on top of it. It still has a little bit of kind of pushing, like kind of it's tugging a little bit on sharp turns, but honestly, like it just feels solid when you're pushing it. All right, and here is our lip test. It's not fair. This is a damn good built cart. Like it's just not fair. 350 pounds and it handles it like nothing. All right, so this is the Proaim cart. Now again, this one has the twist lock handles. So like just a quick handle test. If I push, oh wow. This one's bending quite a bit. Look at how much this one wiggles. So just, and it's tightened all the way, guys. Look at this, it's tightened all the way, but I can still, there's a lot of bend. These should just be used for steering, that's it. Maneuvering it honestly feels really good. Honestly, I'm gonna rank this one a little bit higher than the Inovativ just because how it turns, it feels a little bit smoother on turns. Almost reminds me of the Jaeger, and I think that's because the tires are a little bit thicker. So in terms of like actual girth, like the tires are thick on here, so it actually handles really smooth. All right, y'all, that's gonna wrap us up for this video. Now, I'm really excited to go over my recommendations for these carts. Again, they're all really solid, but I think they're designed to be used entirely different. After doing that lip test with the weight, I've come to some conclusions of my own that I think you should actually consider when going out and buying. So the first thing first, If you're looking for a cart where you're like, you know what, I need to use my laptop, I'm doing a live stream, I want a monitor, I want to hook it up, I want to add a bunch of accessories to it, then honestly, I'm going to go with the Inovativ Apollo series. This cart is pricey at $4,399, but it's the only cart as of right now with this lineup. A ton of different mounting accessories. They're all built really well. You get a really solid built cart with this one. I think the Inovativ cart comes in first in terms of customization. Now, if you need a cart, let's say you're like, okay, I don't need something I'm not mounting monitors. I just need something where I can carry equipment. There's two carts in this lineup that I really think you should go with. That's gonna be obviously the Maken YeagerPro and then the Adicam cart. Now, both of these carts are impressive. I think, for my honest opinion, because of the tire size of the Yaeger, I would say go with the YeagerPro. Now, you can get this in a smaller tire size, but these tires are thick, they're robust, they go over curbs and different levels very easy, and 52 inches for only $1,959. That's hard to beat. The second option, the reason I would go with the Adicam cart is because this cart comes in at $1,880, but it's a lot smaller. So if you're trying to pack a cart into the back of an SUV or maybe the back of like a pickup truck and you got to fold it down and take it apart every night, you're gonna wanna go with this one. This one is a toolless assembly. It's super simple to assemble and disassemble. Literally some thumb screws, unscrew it, fold the legs in, the wheels with a quick release pin slide off and slide back into the inside. It comes in the bag, slide this into the back of your SUV and you're ready to go. So in terms of the best budget-friendly option, I'm gonna recommend the Adicam. But if you have a production van, I'm gonna say go with the Maken YeagerPro. Now they also offer this cart in a smaller size, but if you have to tear it down and put it together and stuff like that often, this one's a lot more complicated. You don't want to be bolting on, like taking the bolts out on the tires and stuff like that every time. You're gonna much rather go with something like this that's quickly to disassemble and go. Now, the only cart out of the entire lineup that I will not recommend, and I don't think you should spend money on, is the Proaim. This model of the Proaim, the Victor Lite, to me, it's too light. I don't think this is worth it. I do not like the way the tires are. I don't like how they're mounted. I don't like the handles. And the fact that I can kick off that back tire is just a recipe for disaster. You're gonna be in a situation, like just imagine, we just did that cart test. Imagine going to pull it over something and the tire is actually sliding, which is a good actual, let's look and see. It did, it slid. Look at this one. Holy crap, this is crazy. We just did that lip test. We put the cars back in and the left tire is already sliding off. So imagine going over curbs and going in and out of places and constantly pulling it over to get it over something. Before you know it, that tire is coming off. So this is the only one out of the Inovativ, the Adicam, the YeagerPro, I think the only one that I won't recommend because of these design quirks and how thin this metal is on the bottom and top, is gonna be the Proaim Victor Lite. So I really hope this video helped you guys. Again, in terms of cost ratio, these carts all are competitive, but I think there's a way you should go about it, and that's gonna be how you plan to use it. If, and only if, you need to mount a bunch of accessories like a monitor and things like that, go with the Inovativ Apollo series. But if you're only looking for something that can take all the groceries in one trip, you wanna go with the Adicam, depending on the size of your vehicle, or my favorite, the Maken YeagerPro. All right, that's gonna wrap us up for this video. As always, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comment section below. And until the next video, y'all keep creating, and I will see you in the next one. Knock on the round. 2 and 3 in my DNA, I hustle. West side, we hustle. East side, we hustle. We hustle. I'm built for it, tough, gotta push that muscle. No squares in my huddle.